Yananai hine matov. Yananai, Yananai umanayim. Yananai, Yananai shevet achim. Shevet achim gam yachad. Yananai, Yananai hine matov. Yananai, Yananai shevet achim. Yananai, Yananai shevet achim gam yachad. Let's light up the world, oh brothers and sisters, together with peace and love. Bring light to the world, oh sisters and brothers, and sing Hine Matov. Yananai, 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 Hine Matov. Yananai, Yananai, umanayim. Yananai, Yananai, shevet achim. Shevet achim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are really delighted to be here with all of you tonight. I am delighted. We are all delighted. And hoping to bring in some of the peace and connectedness and warmth of Shabbat tonight as we spend time together.
And even though you feel like you've probably been here now for a long time, this is only your third Shabbat service with us. So for those of you who don't know who's speaking, it is Rabbi Alexandra Stein, who's our newest rabbi of our clergy team. So excited to welcome you yet again. We'll be doing that all summer. It's saying how excited we are to welcome you. And Madeleine Lebeau, who is joining us direct from Princeton, where she is going to be starting her third year, and then after that off to Cantorial School. So she's helping us out this summer a little bit. So we welcome you, Madeleine, as well, to sing tonight. So in that vein, let's sing. Let's sing a little bit more. In your prayer book on page 10, and by the way, everyone, especially if you're watching from home, you can click on the prayer book link on the streaming page to open up the online version of Mishkan Tefillah. And here in the sanctuary, I'm sure you all know that the prayer book is either right in front of you or under your seat. And we hope that you'll pray along with us, sing along with us, read along with us to make this community so special. So we're going to sing on page 10, Yedid Nefesh by Craig Talbot. Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, av harachaman, Meshoch abdecha, Eretz zonecha, Eretz zonecha. Let's try that again. Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, av harachaman, Meshoch abdecha, Eretz zonecha, Eretz zonecha. Yarutz abdecha, kemo haya, yishtachaveh el muhadarecha. Yedid nefesh av harachaman, av harachaman, Meshoch abdecha, Eretz zonecha, Eretz zonecha.
As we welcome in Shabbat, we also welcome one another. And so I invite you to turn to someone near you who you may know or may not know yet and wish them a Shabbat Shalom and introduce yourself if need be.
It's so great when we have summer services that we have a whole congregation to choose from for lighting Shabbat candles. Normally on when we have B'nai Mitzvah here, the moms light the Shabbat candles, but on this week I have invited Edward Koningsberg and your mom, Meryl Spiegel, to come forward to help light the candles. Longtime members of Temple Road of Shalom and very faithful Shabbat worshipers with us, Edward. So if you'll turn to page 3 in your prayer book, page 3. Who would like to read first? Okay, can you hold the mic?
As these Shabbat candles give
light to all.
who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As the brightness reminds us of generations who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those in kindled light.
All right, and then if you could light the candles for us. Thank you both. Let's join together in the blessing on page 3. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you both very much. Shabbat shalom to you. So Kabbalat Shabbat is the next part of our service that helps us prepare for the main service, which begins with Baruch Hu. But Kabbalat Shabbat reminds us that each psalm reminds us of each day of the week. And then we land on Friday night as we welcome the Sabbath bride with Lecha Dodi. So tonight, Madeleine will join me. We're going to sing on page 20. We'll sing Lecha Dodi with verses 1, 8, and 9. 1, 8, and 9. And if you are comfortable rising and following in the tradition, at verse 9, the tradition is to rise, to face the entrance to the sanctuary, to welcome in the Sabbath bride, and then you'll be seated when you turn back around. So Lecha Dodi, page 20 and 21. Adonai ta'aritzi al yarish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat mekamela lecha dodi likrat kala the ending of Kabbalat Shabbat, we rarely ever sing here because we always sing something at the beginning before L'Chadodi, and then we sing L'Chadodi and go on with the service. But tonight, just in the interest of being different, I thought we'd start with L'Chadodi and then sing the psalm that comes after L'Chadodi tonight. So what happens is if each of the psalms, starting from L'Chu Naranana, Psalm 92, I think, represents a day of the week, once we get to the Shabbat, we welcome Shabbat with L'Chadodi, which we just did, but then the Kabbalat Shabbat gives us two psalms to celebrate the majesty and the completeness of Shabbat as it connects to God completing the 7 days of creation. And so on page 23, you'll see the words Adonai Malach from Psalm 93. This melody, a Portuguese melody, I think reminds us of that majesty that's inherent in this psalm. Adonai Malach. Adonai Malach Geut Lavesh, Lavesh Adonai Osit Azar, Aftikon Tevel, Baltimot, Aftikon Tevel, Baltimot, Nachon Kisacha Meoz, Meolam, Ata, Nasu Neharot, Adonai, Nasu Neharot, Kolam, Yisun Arot, Doch Yam, Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishpereyam, Adir Bamarom Adonai, Adir Bamarom Adonai, Edot Chanemu Meod, Leveit Chan Ava Kodesh, Adonai Leorech Yamim, Adonai Leorech Yamim, Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishpereyam, Adir Bamarom Adonai, Adir Bamarom Adonai. And now we are ready for Shema Uverchotecha, the first major section of our service. The Baruch Hu begins on page 28. Please rise. Page 30, page 30, we have a Hebrew and an English melody of the Ma'ariv Aravim, the prayer about creation, and you can follow along Hebrew and then English every line. Baruch atah Adonai,
Speak the evening into being.
Bechokma poteach she'arim,
As you turn the seasons round,
Umachaliv et hazmanim,
let the stars keep watch above us.
Barakia kirtzono,
For the day and night are yours.
Borei yom v'layla, Borei yom v'layla, Golel or mipnei choshech, Nechoshech mipnei or. Borei yom v'layla, Borei yom v'layla, Golel or mipnei choshech, Nechoshech mipnei or.
Umavir yom umevir laila.
Crossing over into darkness,
Umavdil ben yom uven laila.
drawing lines within the light.
Adonai Tzivaot Shemo.
God living and enduring,
Tamid yimloch aleinu.
forever and beyond.
Borei yom v'layla,
Borei yom v'layla, Golel or mipnei choshech, Nechoshech mipnei or. Borei yom v'layla, Borei yom v'layla, Golel or mipnei choshech, Nechoshech mipnei or. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravi. Page 34. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated.
We continue on page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'chayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, b'shivtecha v'betecha, uvlechtecha v'derech, uv'shofbecha uv'kumecha, ukshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot beinenecha, uchtavtam, Amizuzot betecha uvisharecha leman tiskeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. Please join me on the top of page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Page 40. Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilo, no sevele, nora tehilot, osele. Malchutecha ra'u v'anecha bokei hayam, lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze Eli anu ve'ameru Adonai imloch, le'olam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, osei veled, nora tehilot, osei veled. ונאמר כי פרע אדוני את יעקב, גאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. On page 43, let's read together at the top of the page. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Yismechu, page 44. ישמחו במלכותה שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותה בקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותה שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותה בקוראי עונג. חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכה למעשה, זכה למעשה בראשית. חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכה למעשה, זכה למעשה בראשית. ישמחו במלכותה שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותה בקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותה
We carry the joy of Shabbat into the Amidah on page 46. Please rise if you are able. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Hastei Avot V'machot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magin. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Tagibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakol, Atarav lechoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel hayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofe holim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umidomelach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lechayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. The next part of the Amidah, the Kedushat Hayom, which you can find on pages 54 and 55, invites us to enter a place where we really become appreciative of the peace that potentially Shabbat can offer. So today, as we enter this prayer, which in a moment I'll invite you to read silently if you would like, I'd like to invite you to think about what's a place where you feel very peaceful and very held. Can you imagine it? Maybe a person with whom you feel peaceful or with whom you feel held and safe. Can you imagine what it's like to be there or be with this person? Can you imagine the smells and the tastes and the sights? And to hold that in your mind a little bit as we hold the opportunity for peace that Shabbat and resources within our own life provide. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. We continue now with Ritzeh on page 56. Praying by Mary Oliver. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention, then patch a few words together, and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but the doorway into thanks, and a silence in which another voice may speak. We take a moment for silent prayer.
Take time now to think of those people who need our prayers for their healing and recovery of mind, body, and spirit. If you'll turn to page 253 in your prayer book, 253, we offer them our traditional Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et HaCholim Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Alehem Lecha Chalimam Ulrapotam Ulecha Chazikam Vishlach Lechem Meherah Refuah Shlema Min Hashemayim Refuah Tanefesh Refuah Taguf Hashta Ba'agala Vizman Kariv V'Nomar Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah bless and heal all those who are ill, including Alon ben Barbara, Hannah Esther bat Crandall, Maria Campo, Richard Dunhoff, Barbara Green, James Green, Sarah Jacobs, Rebecca Cooper, Dave Knocker, Arnie Rome, David Harrison. We pray too for all those who are victims of violence in Israel, in the Ukraine, around the world, as well as those in service to our country who need emotional, spiritual, and physical healing. If you'd like to add a name to those that I just mentioned, please do so as I look around the congregation. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as together we say, Amen. And let's sing the words of the second verse of Mishaberach in the middle of 253. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Well, to continue our summer theme this summer of groundbreaking American Jewish leaders, I want to introduce you to Cantor Barbara Osfeld this week, the first ordained female cantor in Jewish history. Cantor Osfeld is now retired from her last pulpit in Buffalo, New York, but has served for nearly 50 years and continues to serve in the Reform movement as a leader and as a mover and shaker. This year is actually the 50th anniversary of the ordination of the first female ordained rabbi, Sally Presand, who was ordained by the Hebrew Union College, our Reform Movement's seminary, in 1972. Prior to that, there were only men who served as ordained rabbis and cantors in Reform synagogues. But the 60s and 70s, as you know, was a time of a second wave of American feminism that would permanently change the shape of liberal American Jewry. Barbara Osfeld remembers going to her synagogue, Oak Park Temple in Elmhurst, Illinois, with her parents and grandparents. It was the music that connected her to her Judaism. And she started singing in her cantor, Cantor Martin Rosen's children's choir, similar to our Sheer Harmony. She admitted in an article having a crush on Cantor Rosen. But also, and more importantly, how grateful she was that he gave her so many solo opportunities, where she caught the singing bug and realized how much she enjoyed leading the congregation in those songs. Osfeld also attended one of the Reform Movement's camps as a child, the Olin Sang Ruby Camp in Wisconsin, where the new folk rock tradition was starting to spread. She is quoted as saying that she was singing at age 2 and loved singing Jewish music by age 8 and wanted to emulate Cantor Rosen. Osfeld grew up in a very liberal, egalitarian home and was encouraged to follow her dreams as she thought about college. She asked her mentor, Cantor Rosen, about going to cantorial school, and he started laughing, explaining the school does not accept women. There were women who were singing in some liberal synagogues as soloists and in choirs at that time, but no one had gone to cantorial school or had been accepted as an ordained cantor at that time. As a matter of fact, it was unheard of that a cantor could be female. It all goes back to the term kol isha, the voice of the woman, that if you were here last Shabbat, you heard Cantor Rhodes speak about that. Kol isha is a rabbinic dictum that stipulates that a woman's singing voice cannot be distracting in prayer to men, and therefore, women were not allowed to sing in mixed company. It's mentioned in the Gemara, and later in the Shulchan Aruch, where it codifies the law saying that you should refrain from hearing the singing voice of a woman during prayers in the service, but hearing a woman speak is okay. So in many ways, Kol Isha actually made it harder for a woman to become a cantor, or be accepted as a cantor with traditional Jews, than for a woman to be accepted as a rabbi. But now, Barbara Osfeld wanted to lead the music of services, and she wanted to be just like her mentor. She called the Hebrew Union College and asked for an application to cantorial school, which at the time was an undergraduate program. The registrar told her that she had never received such a request before. I remember that registrar. She was still there when I was in cantorial school. She was the wife of one of the traditional cantors on the faculty and an opera singer herself. And I wonder if she was just thinking about herself as she told Barbara on the phone, kind of, not really letting her have that application. Barbara is quoted as saying, "The woman's slightly officious tone rattled Barbara, but the registrar in the end sent her an application. After all, the first female rabbinical student, Sally Presan, was a second-year student at this time. Apparently, Ostfeld had never really considered the pioneering nature of her plan. Not really a feminist at the time, she was merely following through on her childhood dream. It never occurred to her that she herself would be a trailblazer. Only years later would she realize the religious significance behind her pioneering efforts. Ostfeld encountered many challenges along the way. She didn't know Hebrew, only able to recite prayers from memory. She sang for her audition a secular Italian art song, and when the piece was finished, she attempted to get out of the room, but the door wouldn't budge. It was an embarrassing moment, and finally, the cantor who was leading the audition had to push the door open. On the other side of the door was the entire student body of HUC rabbinical and cantorial students eavesdropping at the keyhole. One of the problems that Ostfeld faced was the music itself. All cantorial music was written for a man, for tenor and bass octave ranges. And as the only woman in the HUC school choir, it was her and 22 other men, tenors and basses. She was told not to sing out loud, but just to mouth her part so that she would not be noticed singing higher than the men. But Ostfeld succeeded in her quest. She loved the school, she loved her studies. She came early and left late. She attended tefillah every day. It was a great time to be at HUC as the students and faculty were politically engaged. She was proud to be there, she said. She became active in student leadership and fought hard to get more text study in the cantorial curriculum, as well as more shared classes with rabbinical students. She eventually served as student president of the cantorial school and later turned down the position of director, which she was later offered. On June 8, 1975, Barbara Ostfeld became the first ordained female cantor. Television cameras covered the ordination. Cantor Ostfeld served congregations in Great Neck, Rochester, and then Buffalo. She then retired and became the director of placement for the American Conference of Cantors, where she recently retired not that long ago. She led the way for women to become cantors, for composers to write music for women cantors, and for young girls who like to sing to have a role model on the bima. From 1975 to 1995, so over those next 20 years, 1/3 of the 108 cantors ordained in the Reform movement were women, all starting from Barbara Ostfeld. My class that started in 1990 was one of the few classes that there was almost a 50-50 makeup of men and women. But ever since then, the majority of cantorial students have been women. Former director of the cantorial school, Bruce Rubin, said, "The quiet revolution, begun by one unassuming young woman, transformed the field. And she herself said that at age 22, that she cracked through a stained glass ceiling to become the first woman ordained as a cantor in 3,000 years of Jewish history, but later foolishly declined an invitation to appear on What's My Line." So I want to end with a video clip, which I hope you'll can see on these monitors here, when I interviewed Barbara and her cantor, Martin Rosen, in 1994, and there was also a congregant of Barbara's who he himself was a cantorial student at the time and became a cantor, who he was inspired by Barbara. So in 1994, my master's project for the cantorial school was a video documentary that I produced on the American Reformed Cantorate that was shown on public television and was used by congregations to open new pulpits for cantors. So I interviewed Cantor Ostfeld and Cantor Rosen, and now Cantor Stephen Weiss, who grew up in Cantor Ostfeld's congregation. Here's a short clip, very short, including the three of them from that video. Bob?
The Hebrew Union College reached another milestone in the cantorate in 1975. That's when the college invested the first ever female cantor.
We took a chance and took a risk, not knowing how this would be accepted in the congregational world. And there was a great difficulty when we first began recruiting women for the cantorate to overcome the hurdle of ignorance that this entailed.
I'm surprised that it started with me. I think it's such a logical career choice for a Jewish woman.
Barbara Ostfeld Horowitz was the one to take this historical step.
sooner.
And although the example she set was followed gradually, now more women are entering the field than men. Stephen Weiss and Eileen Keyes are now studying to be cantors at the Hebrew Union College. They both feel indebted to their cantors for having found their true calling.
I have to repay everything that my cantor and the Jewish leaders of my congregation did for me, and this is how I feel I can do that.
I love helping and working with other people, and becoming a cantor opens every door for me.
Stephen Weiss's cantor was none other than Barbara Ostfeld Horowitz, the first woman cantor, and she was influenced by her cantor, Martin Rosen.
I knew from the time that I was 8 years old that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do for children what he had done for me and for the other kids who were in the children's choir. And I never wavered in that.
3 generations of people who have devoted their lives to the cantorate. All are examples of the new age of seminary-trained cantors.
Cantor Ostfeld is one of those groundbreaking Jewish leaders who I've known personally for more than 30 years now, and she's been an inspiration to me and so many others who have taken and followed her path. May she continue to inspire and bless us. Can Yehi Ratzon? May this be God's will.
We continue now with the Aleinu on page 282. Please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer b'reshit, shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser haaretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim ima'al, u'shchinat uzo b'govhei meromim, hu Eloheinu ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please be seated. On page 287, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. We will move in a moment towards the mourner's Kaddish and take time to remember those in our lives and in our community who we have lost. I invite you now to take a moment or two to look through some of the readings that precede the mourner's Kaddish. They begin on page 288 and go to page 293. It is our custom here to invite mourners and folks remembering people on the anniversary of their death to rise when you hear the name of a person that you are here to say Kaddish for. I'm going to read our Kaddish list, and after that, we'll provide space for anyone to add a name if they're saying Kaddish for someone who wasn't on the list or wasn't read aloud. And I invite you to rise if you're able when you hear the name of somebody who you are here remembering. Today we're offering condolences to Lorraine Wadiska and Susan Kusal on the death of their brother and uncle, Walter Scherf. And we're also remembering the following people whose families are in the period of Shloshim, the period of mourning 30 days or less after someone's death. Robert Gold, father of Michael Gold. Alan Cohn, brother of Susan Hale. Harry Robert Bob Grossman, father of Matthew Grossman. Nancy Rome, mother of Brian Rome. Marguerite K. Learer, aunt of Sylvia Lesher. We also remember the following people, the anniversary of whose death falls this week. Rose Amberg, Jacob Auerbach, Mark Barvin, Harriet Beckman, Joseph Bernheim, Lou Block, Alan Serker, Gad Afrach, Edwin Aaronworth, Esther Eisenberg, Shepard Freed, Louis Friedner, Aggie Golden, Jack Goldstein, Lillian Gould, Cecilia Gould, Louis W. Gray, Harold Harris, William E. Hensel, Gerald Zev Hoffman, Martin Horowitz, Bernard Carlin, Alfred Kaufman, Sadie Kestenbaum, David Lader, Jane Leon, May Levine, Charles Leibowitz, Herbert Needleman, Esther Patashnik, Helen Zuner Raphael, Louis Raskin, Ronald Roberts, Irving Rosenbaum, Judy Roth, Richard Schiff, Judy Schutzer, Jack M. Shapiro, Samuel Shapiro, Marvin Sanaski, Maurice Steinmetz, Pearl Vigoda, James Walther, Raymond A. Weckstein, Judy Weiss, Harris Wolfson, and Hazel Udow. If you are here today remembering somebody whose name was not read aloud and you'd like to speak their name aloud, or if I read the name of a relative but mispronounced it and you'd like to correct the pronunciation, please feel free to do so as my hand moves around the room. Thank you. We hold all of them in our hearts as we turn to the Mourner's Kaddish, which is on page 294. And if you are not standing, I invite you to rise in solidarity with the community. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbi, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemed kudasha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiran belma v'yimru. Yehe shlama rabba min shamaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom bin romav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world, to which we say, amen. Please be seated. It is now a pleasure to invite up Josephine Lebeau to bring greetings and announcements on behalf of the board.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Stein. Shabbat shalom. Honored to welcome all of you here on behalf of our congregation to our worship service tonight. There is nothing like being here in person, feeling the beautiful Shabbat spirit and this beautiful song filling our sanctuary. For those on the live stream, we feel your presence and we hope we see you here in person sometime soon. It is so exciting to be here. This is my first in-person Shabbat with Rabbi Stein. Thank you so much for being here tonight and letting me meet you finally. And we look forward to welcoming you to the family, and I know we all look forward to getting to know you better. What a beautiful service. Thank you for the music. It was fantastic.
Thank your kid.
Thank you for illuminating the story of Cantor Oswald. Very interesting. Very important person to our family, and who knew? Her and you, of course, for inspiring Madeleine and so many others into song. Please check the newsletter, the e-letter from yesterday, and the latest edition of The Connection for all that's coming up in the congregation. I'm going to highlight two things. We have the Summer Limud, Choosing an Ethical Life, on Thursday, July 28th at 7 p.m. The theme is Ethics of Systematic Justice Work. How do we tease out some of the nuances and challenges of living up to teachings like it is not up to you to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist, from Pirkei Avot. We'll approach the question from the perspective of classical Jewish texts and some modern fields like the study of moral injury. And this is an in-person event. And of course, High Holy Day registration has begun. It is open for temple members. Please check your email for the login credentials. It's very quick, very easy. And registration will close on Monday, August 22nd. More information, more announcements can be found in the TRS e-letter, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Josephine. We're going to turn to Kiddush on page 5, so I invite you to rise if you're comfortable. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hini lanu zikaron למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי באנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת Shabbat. L'chaim. And before I forget, thank you to Frank, thank you Madeleine, and thank you to Bob Suslowitz, who's streaming our service, and of course Clyde. And Clyde will be unhappy with me if I forget to tell you to bring your programs to the back with you on your way out. That would be great. And we will close our service with the singing of Oseh Shalom, page 343. Page 343. Let's join together. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al Yisrael.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
May this Shabbat bring us a sense of connection, of possibility, and of peace. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So much fun. Shabbat Shalom.
Great job. I'm sorry that I wasn't sure if you were going to come in on the last meeting. So I said, I wasn't sure. I'm trying to look and see if I could tell in your eyes.
I was trying to follow
It wasn't, right, it wasn't like we hadn't talked about it.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for
Of course, Edward, really. Yeah, I know. You saw it on the street. Yeah.
Thank you for lighting the candles.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Have you met Rabbi Stein?
Yes.
Yes.
Times, how are you doing?
Good.
That's great.
What'd you think of Madeleine singing?
It was good. Madeline, I loved you singing.
Oh, thank you so much. You're so kind. Thank you so much for lighting the candles today. You did
You're
such a beautiful
welcome.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job.
Really beautiful job.
Cantor Shochet, why didn't you wear a mask?